Hey guys, welcome back. I am Nicole, and I am going to talk to you today about ending soul contracts, but ending soul contracts in a physical human sense. So basically leaving this world. As your 3D physical human would refer to as death, right? And it's not death of ego, it's not death, it's like, physical death and exiting this world. So, I've actually like this has been on my mind for 2 weeks. It's been coming in strong and just like today it was nonstop and I wanted to put this together and I'm not really sure if I'm going to throw it on YouTube or I'm going to create a different platform and put it on or I'm going to throw it on Instagram or whatever I'm going to do with this video yet. But I know it needs to be discussed because it keeps coming up and coming up and coming up and coming up. So, again, ending the 3D contracts in a physical sense, right? So ending your Earth contract. How about that? How about let's go with ending your Earth contract. So this could be an intermediate kind of video or it could be for beginners. So I'm going to try to word it as best as I could and use wording where even a beginner would understand. I'm not really good at that since I usually go straight to intermediate and very high council, high level. But I'm going to try to, keep it as dumbified as possible. And not dumbified in a bad way. I'm not saying anything, like don't take offense to that. Just, like dumbified to the human version. So the logic, it'll hit it'll bypass your ego mind and you'll be able to understand it as well. So let's get started with when we come here, we have contracts, right? We all sign these contracts. There are several different ways where we can exit our reality. In the Earth project, right? There's several ways because there are so many timelines that you could jump onto. There are so many quantum leaps that you can. There are so many times that, you get held back as a soul and you don't even, well, I mean, that would be, a timeline right there. Like you stay stuck. So overall, there are so many different timelines and subcontracts, let's call them for the beginners, that you have as options because as humans we have free will. All right. We also live in a very densified time where now as of right now things are coming to light. A lot of people are awakening, a lot of people are understanding what's going on, but for a very, very long time, we've been in this like very dense programming, on top of coming here and being in amnesia, which we're supposed to be. There's been an added bonus onto that. Thank you to the reptilians for that one. But whatever. Anyway, you have that added bonus on because we're programmed to not believe in anything and not believe in our truth and not believe in ourselves and not believe in you name it. We're not, we're trained not to believe in it, the unknown, the not seen, the whatever you want to call it. So anyway, so when you come here, you have, you choose your exit strategy. Again, it depends on what timeline you're on of the exit strategy that you go on. So I'm going to do this from a point of view from yourself and then like having a loved one pass away. So I think like having a loved one pass away, when you are not awake and when you are not open to to see other versions and to see other point of views and to see other worlds, it's a very saddening of a passing, right? I use my kids as an example all the time. All three of my children are still here in the physical. But I think, like I use it as an example for myself, like the detachment. Um, so many of us, again, we're grown up into families, especially Italians. I'm sure there's many cultures that have the same thing, but like, as Italians that like everyone got together, everyone, at the funeral, everyone sobbed, everyone like it was just like this, like ongoing thing. Which, like well, for me, it was always different because for me, I would always go to a funeral and see all the other dead relatives that were there, like sitting in the pews or sitting in this, and I'd be like, it's always different for me. But overall, the passing of a loved one is the actual most common way to wake up because you are so intrigued to know, and you're so attached, and like, where is my person going? What is happening? To my mom, to my dad, to my child, to my aunt, to my grandpa, like whatever, to your loved one, your best friend, whatever, right? We're just going to use loved one. So you're so intrigued by that, and you're so in this frame of mind where things can, come in, right? And you start questioning your own mind, and you're getting answers, but you really don't understand the answers and where they're coming from, and you don't know what to do with that information. So we're going to put that on hold for right now. We're just going to kind of circle back to that is the most common way the majority of people, do wake up when they do have a death that is very close to them. It opens their vision. Immensely at times. Some people have ginormous leaps after that, and then some people, it becomes gradual. So, keep that in mind. I was actually just having a conversation with, a family member today, and she was saying like how when her mom passed away, it sparked, a thing. And I said, oh, that is actually the most common scenario, like it sparks you into, you know, again, like otherworldly things, ooh, this is not just like, the only world we have, the only dimension, the only reality, the only whatever you want to call it, right? However, when you are more human based and looking at someone pass away in your life, a loved one, you tend to go through the guilt, the sadness, the regrets. Well, I guess that kind of falls into guilt. Like all of these things, right? The love you have, the fact that you're never going to be able to touch them again. Why did this person have to go? Why did this person have to leave? So, if we were the way that we were supposed to be, death wouldn't be so disturbing to us. It's a transition. Um, it wouldn't be like this, oh my God, I'm not going to survive this person passing away. Why did this happen? This is a shock, this and that. You would understand, how, soul contracts work. How, yes, although sometimes devastating in a physical reality, it's part of the soul contract. And the more you come out of the density and the more you become aware, the less you see death as like, oh my God, like it's traumatic, it's whatever. It's more of like, well, they fulfilled their contract and lucky them, they get to leave and I'm still stuck here in the Earth Project. But that's just dark sense of humor, but it's really not because I'm just like, oh wow, great, you got to leave. I'm still here because I still have a shit ton to go. So but their life may have not looked pretty and it may not have looked, perfect, and they may have struggled and they may have had lack, and or they may have been like this perfect person, or like why did they have to die so young, and a million things go through your mind when that loved one passes away, right? Like I said, there's a million things. We're not really going to get into this. I'm going to kind of give this an overall haul for you. If you ever want like a more of a breakdown, obviously we could do a one-on-one. I do schedule one-on-ones now. They're up and running. And you can find that, I guess, in the information wherever this is plugged into. And at this time, just email me and that works. Or I could, if I have enough requests, I will make like a video, more of a breakdown video. But this is kind of, again, just an overall. So I want you to take the human side of passing away and everything that you see on a human aspect and kind of take it to, this person fulfilled their contract, whether they fulfilled it on their highest timeline or their lowest timeline, their contract is filled and they get to graduate Earth school. No matter what it is, no matter if it's a young child with cancer or just a young child in general, a baby, an unborn baby, everything has a purpose. Every soul has a purpose. Every contract has a purpose. Every interaction, every interaction has a purpose. So I really want to like put that out there. When people congregate at these funerals and the wakes, and like I find it now to be, I mean, like I found it to be interesting before, but like even, I mean, like throughout my years, because I would absorb everybody's energy. But now I find it even more profound because I'm like, it's all of the people it's all fake, right? I mean, like society deems like you have to spend money on a funeral, you have to bury this, you have to cremate, you have to whatever, like all these rules and regulations, right? And nobody's really honoring the fact that this person had a life. Everybody's just like, even if they talk shit about the person, they're all like, oh my God, like whatever, whatever. To me, it's just so, like keep it away, whatever, whatever. Supporting is different. You don't have to physically be in that vicinity to send support. So here's another thing, and let's kind of jump into that really fast. When you send any type of energy to anyone, so when you think of anyone and the thoughts that you think, you're sending to them. So if you're sending somebody fear and worry, like, oh my God, how are they going to survive this? How are they going to get through this? Like, oh my God, I feel bad for them. They are feeling that energy, right? So you kind of want to stay in a positive aspect. And listen, I'm telling you, it's not easy to be in a positive aspect all the time. I'm not all happy vibes all the time because that shit is not real. Definitely. It's like, that's just bullshit. But anyway, but you want to send them the light and the love, right? There are exercises to send light and love to people, but just thinking about sending them light and love, does a tremendous amount, all on its own. So there's that aspect. I did write things down, but I'm sure I'm going to skip around. And like I said, whatever I missed, comment and we'll take it from there. Or the most I get is, side DMs and messages anyway. So, but anyway, let's see. So I'm just trying to bring to light that the passing away of a loved one, or watching somebody else's loved one pass away, it's not as traumatic as it's made to be, right? As the physical world and the program made you to think it is. It's a beautiful thing. They fulfilled their contract again on the highest timeline, on the lowest timeline, on a middle timeline. Um, their soul got to experience the human 3D life. And they get to exit out of the program. Yay for them. Because I'm sure, like, if you're watching this and you're a star seed, you're just like, oh God, yay for them, but yet I'm still here. But anyway, totally different subject. But there's always light in every situation, right? So even if that person's passing, even if it's not directly related to you, it can cause it could trigger that awareness in you. And again, triggers are not a negative thing. Yes, triggers can actually, there's no such thing as negative. Every negative turns into a positive anyway because everything happens for a reason. But like on a trigger aspect, it's like, these things are triggers. These things make you, question things, make you wonder things, like thoughts pop up and, your curiosity takes over. So it's like your ego takes a back step and it's like your soul is like, hey, like let's go, let's have fun, let's start questioning things, like let's lean into this, let's like, like let's dive deep, like that's where like your soul is kind of like, on the, your light body is just like, hey, where your logical mind is like, oh my God, this is horrible, this is devastating, this is whatever, whatever. We can't see anything past this. This is, horrendous, and look at the reality. But but it plays out in everyone. Everyone has a soul contract. So everyone, has to, if they had a mother who passed away and she left young children, that those children have that soul contract to live out, to be able to navigate. And again, on their highest timeline, they'd be able to help somebody else, who goes through this. On their lowest, they turn to like drugs, alcohol, and negativity stuff. Like there's always a reason for why things happen. Always. Whether you see it or not right away, or whether you see it years down the line, or whether you just don't see it at all, there is always a reason. There is always, we're literally living in a play. It's the easiest way I could say it. Yeah, it's the easiest way I could say it. So right now happens to be, the veil for, I want to say at least a year, but even more so recently, has been extremely thin in two worlds, right? So when a loved one does pass away, you feel it, you can feel it. Even before the veil was thin, you could feel it, and you didn't have to be like as open as I was to be able to feel it. You feel it as a human. You feel it because it triggers your soul, right? It triggers the awareness, like, oh, this person's leaving. This person's not going to be in my physical reality anymore. What is happening with this person? So what happens in the short run is that, the majority of people who pass away, come and watch over your children, come and watch over you, like they become guardian angels, your guardians, your spirit guides. That was the other word I was looking for. They become helpful. And this person could, like, if you had a friend of a friend and it was their mother, and like you met them once, or maybe you didn't even meet them, and you're going through some type of awakening where like you're realizing, oh my God, you have mediumship skills, or oh my God, you could use tarot cards, or whatever. And then this person comes into you, comes to you, and you're just like, whoa, but they're there to help you through that lesson. They're there to help you relearn, the knowledge that you already have. I mean, I remember sitting reading, I can't even tell you what book it was, but like reading a book, and this was probably about 7 years ago. And I was already and I thought I was awake, because like, I had mediumship skills, I had psychic skills, I had all these skills, but I had no idea what actual skills I had until recently when, like the whole system comes crumbling and all the veils and illusions come down, and it's like a whole other ball game from there. But anyway, I was sitting there reading this book, and it was quizzing me on the clairs, clairvoyant, whatever the clairs. I'm not going to get into that, but my grandfather was sitting there the entire time with me, looking over my shoulder, and it's it's truth, right? It's a fact that people come in when you have lessons to learn. They help you through those lessons. They help you in remembrance. They help you. You just have to be open to receive it. A lot of us shut it down for fear, because fear of the unknown, fear of, oh my gosh, spirits and whatever, darkness. And it's not, as long as your mind does not go there, you're fine. It's literally just your mind. It's your mindset. It's the way that you view things. It's your point. It truly is your point of view, and how you've been trained to think that way. But once you untrain or retrain your mind, things come in a lot clearer. I will say that. And sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's very hard, depending on the situation, to retrain your brain and the logic that you're looking for when there's no logic in these situations, and in most cases, eventually you do get validation, from around you with signs, synchronicities, people coming up to you and saying just the random things, and you're just like, and it's just validation. Pretty soon, sometimes you won't even need that. You won't need outside validation, because you'll just know. So I just wanted to kind of just put that out there. So, you may be angry, when someone dies as well. But again, these are all angry, anger, fear, regret, sadness, hurt, blame, shame, this whatever. You kind of have to process that on a human level, right? That's understandable. But the more you understand that they literally just live their life and they live their contract, it's easier to process. And you're like, oh, okay. So yes, it's going to absolutely suck that you're not going to be able to physically be able to touch them and talk to them or whatever. But the energy that a light being resonates, when they pass on, is just as strong. And although like you can't reach out and feel it, you could feel the hugs, you could feel the love. Sometimes even more, after they pass than when they were here in the physical world. So listen, even if you had like massive problems with somebody and they passed away, if those lessons and those karmic contracts weren't resolved when they were here, and they're meant to, and you actually had a karmic contract with that, they will unravel as they go through their process of how do I put this in an interestingly small, compact way? in their process of passing over. So it is a process for them to pass over. It's not as dark and gloomy as one would think. They kind of go through a clearing of like everything that, the Earth Project gave you, and you're back to the understanding, and you're your light being self. So you're back to pure love, pure excitement. You have humor because believe it or not, there's lots and lots of humor, dark humor, whatever you would consider dark humor, regular humor, sarcasm. That is you in light form. I don't care what anybody says and who's going to argue, with me over that one. That is exactly how the federations work, the galactic federations, the just the councils. If just everything, like not related to the Earth Project is pure joy, pure love, and pure, humor. It's not as serious as it is in the physical 3D. Which is why, if you've ever been to a medium and a psychic, like, they come across very differently. They do share in your sadness, of how you're, reacting to their passing and stuff, which is why a lot of them will be like, we don't want you to be like this, we're over here fishing. Like it doesn't, depending on the situation. But like that was just an example. But you know, yes, they go through a process. No, it is not a painful process. They are actually very, very happy once they do cross over, that they are out of this reality, and and then they go on to bigger and better things, and hopefully they never have to come back to the Earth Project. But some are just Earth souls that just keep repeating anyway. But regardless, they come and they watch over you. They come and watch over your children, your pets, your love, whatever. Like they are there. They never truly leave. And the more you become open and aware to this, you can connect to them a lot easier, a lot more. Know where they are, and they will know, what level you are on. Um, you have to kind of the art of detachment. You can't pull onto that. You can't hold on to anything so tight. You have to kind of leave it free and let it breathe. And the same thing with, like, in your reality now, with anything, like the art of detachment. You could love something, but but you could let it go at the same time. If I get in too deep with that, that'll kind of be like a whole entire different thing. But hopefully, when I watched this back, I made sense, and whoever was meant to get the message and the message came across, it hit and it triggered something. And again, you know, even if you're a beginner or if you're a non-believer, the most common, and I'm going to really stress this, the most common way to awaken, even just a little bit of a flutter, is when a loved one passes away, because that's your open gate, that's your portal. And that's when you like really start, like looking for answers, and want, you do that deep dive. You don't have to. Everyone deep dives at a different level. Everyone, blocks themselves. Not everybody's meant to either. Like they could just open up a little bit and stay that way, and that's the end of that. Or others, do complete deep dives. And it's just it is what it is. It's your choice. You have the right of choice here. So you could quantum leap onto anything that you really want to do. Oh, and there I go with quantum stuff, so I'm going to take it down. But yeah, so you know, just when a loved one dies, and you're in like this frantic mode, just remember there is life after death. There's many lives after death. Whether you want to believe that or not, whether you want to see it or not, totally, totally a other thing. But there is much more to us being in a physical body in this dense 3D reality. There are many worlds out there, many dimensions, many, however you want to, universe. The universe is huge, absolutely huge. So if that's like, if you could relate to that, then that's fine too. Um, you know, it's just like, just it's all light and love. And you can even send light and love to the soul that passed away, during their transition. Light and love is great. You could always send light and love. Light and love is never ending, is always a fail-safe. You can never go wrong with that. So I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Yeah. I hope I covered everything. And again, the more you understand the process of the ending of soul contracts in general, but I'm kind of just talking about the end of it in a 3D physical human body, and exiting out the strategy, this world, because, we do end soul contracts all the time, come to endings, and it is known as death, but you're still here in a physical aspect, two totally different things. I'm talking about on a human perspective, that what you deem as, death and leaving this reality. And again, your belief system is your belief system. There is a real belief system, there is a middle belief system, there is the wrong belief system, but it doesn't matter. It's what you consider, your belief system. Um, so yeah, again, very much so. The veil is very thin, and I have heard so many stories lately about how people are coping with death, and they're, taking their anger out on other people, and it's not that. You just kind of really have to sit back and really sit with yourself and realize that everything happens for a reason. There is a purpose for everyone and everything, and this is just one form of reality. There's so much more to see if you're willing to see it. So until next time, guys, peace out. All the love and light. Bye.